Hello to everyone, and welcome to the second event of the 2023 Open Data Years Dialogue third edition, and let's say a Christmas edition. First of all, it will be in English, so if you have any problem, it's possible to put subtitle on LinkedIn and YouTube either. So I'm very glad to be part of these initiatives and one of the many organized by the Data Years community. But I'm also a little bit nervous since it's my first time as a moderator. So I will try to do my best, but actually I'm not alone, and I have great guests. So I'm pretty excited to introduce them and let them speak about our today topic. So they have lots to share with us. So let's start. I was very lucky because this year it was the Christmas season, and the hoodie were of this wonderful Christmas color. Don't you think it reminds me maybe something? Actually, for us, it was like the Grinch story. And so in this edition, we would really like to discover the real taste of data and analytics. So actually the foundation, the base and the value that you can get from from them. So actually the core, the essence of the data and analytics. So just let me introduce myself. I'm Sara Giannetti, and I work in Credem since 2015 in the IT department in Credem. And actually now I'm working in the data and analytics infrastructure, especially for the data and analytics governance application and of the virtual layer of our enterprise data platform. As I said, I'm part of the Data Heroes community, that is a volunteer-based group of people that talking, sharing experience and competences about data, analytics, and AI. And indeed, we say that you are not born a data year, but you become one. Since aside from your role in the company, the important thing is that you can be a data year since you are contributing to get value from data. And so we started that we were just a little group, and now we are more than 600. And actually, we have also data year from outside the company. So this is really, really great. And this is the second event, as I said, edition, and there will be two other also in January, since we wouldn't let you alone just after all the holidays. So we will stay with you before, during, and also after. So the next episode that will be in January, so the 9th and the 16th, will be digital humanities and generative AI. So I mean, we couldn't talk about it. And as I said, it's a long and interesting journey research to the real data and analytics values. And so keep up to date with the LinkedIn profile from Credem. And remember that if you cannot join in the real time, you can always watch after the event on YouTube channel. So don't worry. This will be an open discussion, so it's a roundtable. So we are happy to have a question from you. So write it down on the chat, and so be part of this discussion, this speech. So now let's start with our Open Data Years dialogue. As the title said, it's the data architecture. So we were speaking about architecture and strategies of today and tomorrow for our data and analytics. And I mean, how we couldn't speak about it without our data architecture chief in Credem. So I'm pleased to introduce our special guest for today, Filippo Panelli. So,
thank you, Sara. Good evening, everybody. It's a real pleasure for me. As Sara was telling, I'm leading the IT architecture in Credence Group, and I've been working on IT and the architecture, especially for several years. I'm very excited today because I think we are talking about the most dynamic and rapidly evolving area of IT architecture. If you look at data architectures, data practice in general, it looks like we are still trying to understand what is really the width, the spread of the possibility that we can achieve with this, and we are still inventing the architectures, we are still inventing the practices, we are still inventing how to test, deploy, how to run in production, what we can do, what it will be in the future. So I'm very glad today, and I'm really honored not only to represent, let me see, all the data heroes and people working on these topics within Credem, but also to have the opportunity to listen and interact with this wonderful guests that Sarah will introduce you, that are not only extremely competent and innovative people, but are really like pioneers, helping us define the path for all the industry and help to shape the future of the data architectures and the futures of what we can do with data and how we can make this world better using data and using it to its full potential. So with the spirit of the data heroes, I'm very, very happy to participate in this conversation today and to be inspired by this wonderful guest, and I hope with challenging ideas, also maybe a bit outside what we usually think, but this is the spirit, to have something that is also challenging what we are thinking today to shape what we'll be doing tomorrow. So thank you very much and welcome everybody.
Okay, thank you, Filippo, for your contribution on this topic. Actually, yeah, there are lots of things interesting to say and also to be inspired from. So really, really thank you. And so now let's start to understand how we should design and build in the near future the city that our data and analytics will live in, and which are the strategy to implement what we are doing, what we will do in the next future. And we will do it with today's guests. So let me introduce them. And so welcome to Daniela Nigro, that is the Principal Data Product Manager in Zalando. Daniela is a data analytics expert with over 10 years of experience in the field, and with an international career, I would say. So from Italy, UK, Liechtenstein, and now in Berlin in Zalando. And she's responsible now from the product area of the Central Analytics Department, with the mission to lead Zalando to become world-class in analytics. So this is a pretty great responsibility. And so they are applying the product management approach to data, ensuring a robust, decentralized data governance. Now, I say welcome to Mike Ferguson, who is a Managing Director of Intelligence Business Strategies, and as an independent analyst and consultant, he specialized in data management, business intelligence, machine learning, AI, and big data. So very great experience. And with over 40 years of experience, Mike has consulted lots of companies, spoken at many events all over the world, and he had also has done many training courses even in Italy. So welcome, and welcome also to Aisha Temuri, enterprise officer in Telenor. So she has 20 years of work experience in mobile, data, and PM strategy roles in both so consulting but also telecom organization. And she's she has worked on one, their data strategy and on approach to technology and digital transformation. So she will explain a little bit more during the discussion. So thank you, all of you. It's really a pleasure to have all of you here, and it looks very nice with our hoodies. It looks great. So now let's get back a little bit in the Grinch story again. So I don't know if you know the Grinch story or you remember the story. The Grinch overlooks the of who built with a lack of empathy for whose citizens, since he didn't really recognize it himself in the city because he was different. So what I was wondering is, we are doing best in building and implementing cities for our data, or our business users are looking at us as the Grinch. We're looking at his habitant. So Daniela, what do you think? How we are building this more tailored, let's say, for our business, and how the relationship between business purpose or business user and that architecture are well connected, or in harmony or not.
So first of all, thanks for having me here, and also thanks for the great assist on the topic, because if we take a closer look at the story, we zoom out a bit, we see two sets of characters that are actually looking at reality with different lenses. And so the problem in the story is that there is no lack of connection and lack of understanding, which is actually not far from reality and what happens when shaping data strategy and data architecture and looking at the business. So to start with, I would say that for data architecture to drive impact for the business, we should make sure that there is this connection built, and that we need to bridge this gap in the understanding. And I think this goes both ways. Is first of all our role as data experts or data leads to make sure that when dealing with business and business problems, they actually do understand what we are talking about and how we are trying to help them, because ultimately our goal is to enable the teams. And we should engage with them at very early stage already in the architecture design. On the other hand, it's also our main responsibility to, I'd say, get outside of the data bubble, where sometimes we as who's are kind of enjoying what we're seeing. We want to save the world and solve problems. And in the end, we should never forget that we should start from the actual problem, the customer problems, not the one that we only see. And we should understand the problem at the very beginning. So in that sense, I would say that when looking at data architecture, they should be designed to be a fit for purpose for the business. And get to your point, I think it's very important that we, how can I say, we enable that connection, and we strive for an approach that is looking at a user-centric design for data architecture. This means that we should aim for what we would call that kind of customer obsession that at Zalando it's pretty much at the core of our founding mindset. We have one key principle that is put yourself in your customer's shoes. And this is also actually what is fundamental in the product approach to data, or data product management, where we start from the actual customer needs and customer problems, and then we work our way backwards in order to understand what are the requirements. I would say that in that sense, data product management fits very well in the support role in shaping data architecture, driving impact, and that are ultimately fulfilling the need of the business. So I'd say it's not a given thing. We should definitely strive for building it and have always the customer in focus. So to wrap up, like, start from the customer, but also not forget to get back to the customer and make sure that there is an engagement, and that ultimately the customers or our internal data user feels also accountable and has a sense of ownership in the component of this data architecture.
Okay, thank you. Actually, interesting. It's like a hard balance, let's say. So from user and the technical part, so the real data architecture. So actually, what you were saying is that it seems that we actually has to start from the end. So the end actually is our beginning. So the user are where we start building our architecture. So starting from what we really need, or what what is the main goal to use the architecture for. So pretty interesting. So how we are building our data architecture, and what will be our strategy, or what are the most common, let's say, data management challenge, Isha, what you have to deal with in your job, and how you are approaching them. I mean, the challenge of the data architecture and data strategy.
Yeah, ciao, grazie, Sara, and member of Credit Bank. Thank you very much for having me here. I would begin with something like AI is everywhere. What will set you apart is your ability to build, train, and deploy your own models. Using your own data with privacy and control by simplifying complexity with unified approach to data architecture, AI, governance, and empower everyone in your organization to discover insight and to make the best use of this data. Whether in the organization you are a data leader, data scientist, data architect, or data in the anybody in the virtual world, you need to experience the data transformation at one stage of your career. When it comes to architecture, from the monolithic or data lake kind of architecture to open source transformation technologies these days, LLMs, Apache Spark, Delta Lakes, MLOps, AutoML, and all these, the customer experience will improve significantly by essential insights needed to accelerate and enhance the business initiatives. At Telenor, what we do is we deliver value to customer at every stage of data transformation and AI. And at the back end, we work tremendously, intensively on developing IT strategy, consulting, benchmarking, analytics, and optimization. Typically, this helps our team at global level to execute on strategic initiatives across all sectors, including 8 pillars primarily. They are digital acceleration and transformation, number one. Number two is enterprise enablement. Number three is data architecture and AI. Number four, application realization. Number five, cloud strategy. Number six, sourcing and ecosystem optimization. Contract number seven, contract and cost optimization. Number eight, security and risk management. Architecture plays a significant part in whether the journey is towards AI or Gen AI or traditional machine learning and data science thing. When we talk about Gen AI, the prompt-based architecture, conversational user interface can be very effective for the business application, but say users still need the human part of it. So it's not possible that you can just dilute the humans altogether. So coming back to your architecture thing, the strong and solid architecture and the operating model is very important when we move towards our journey towards traditional AI, Gen AI, and other transformation technology. At the same time, we just need to develop a very strong and well-architected governance system and the strategy so that the organization work in 3 ways. One is people, process, and its technology. So all 3 things will work hand in hand together for the strong operating model or strong governance to work in any organization. So when we work on governance part particularly, the people and the communication with teams would be very important. And this is exactly the same thing that Daniela has also already mentioned in her speech, that this part of communicating the data part with the organization, internal and external stakeholders, are of critical and important nature. So this is, and the challenges, coming back to the part 2 of your question, challenges are immense. So you need to start from the beginning or beginning from the start. It is the same thing. So challenges will keep on coming, but the strong governance system, if it is well in place, the stronger technology transformation operating model, if it is there, you are quite well equipped with meeting those challenges in a more professional and optimized manner.
This is Mike. Hi. Can I say something here? Before I think the problem a lot of my clients face is complexity right now. They have many siloed systems that are not integrated, and the data is spread across hundreds of different data stores that are, some of them on premises, some of them are in multiple clouds, some of them are at the edge, and some increasingly in software as a service applications. So data complexity is actually becoming a major issue because there is so much data now that people can't find it without some key elements. Aisha mentioned data governance. I think if you're governing data or provisioning data, then you need a catalog. You really need to understand what data you have out there, because it's becoming too difficult for people to search individual data stores on their own. It's too challenging. So I think a complexity is a major challenge for most organizations today. I agree that focus with Daniela said, to focus immediately on the business outcomes, on the business goals, and to work back from there. I completely agree with that. But I think if we get more people building things like building data products or building BI reports or machine learning models, we have to coordinate this across the enterprise. Otherwise, it could create a lot of reinvention and a lot of potential inconsistency because of the reinvention. So for me, the real challenge here is to coordinate multiple teams around the enterprise to deliver on the same business goal, so that you can get contribution of multiple projects towards a common goal, which would then fit with I think what Daniela was saying, and govern, of course, the data to make sure that the data we're using is consistent. Otherwise, everything we build on top of it will also, if it's inconsistent, everything we build on top will also be inconsistent, right? So getting the foundation right. But I think for me, we are now in an era where data and analytics, people wanted to underpin every business function. Everything from sales, marketing, service, operations, finance department, HR department, distribution, logistics, everything. I mean, the whole business is now needing or wanting data and analytics, including AI. But if you're trying to contribute to a common goal, then it could involve people in multiple parts of the business creating things to contribute to that one goal. So I completely agree that there needs to be a business alignment first, and then you can build the projects to create the insights needed to contribute to the objectives.
If I can answer that, I couldn't agree more, especially when it comes to siloed set of data. And what we've been seeing, at least in my experience in different companies, you saw the growth, especially with e-commerce during the pandemic, where company outgrew their expectation, they were ramping up. And so we had this radical agility when each and every department had to catch up with the new needs. And so to add a layer of complexity, you see that even if, like, on top of being siloed, they have different different step. There are different stages because some are moving faster, some are moving slower. So the need to find this layer of consistency, it's getting even harder. And one thing that I believe is key in that is, it's a game changer, I'd say, is identifying clear ownership when defining roles in this coordination. Because one way is to have a common goal, and that's beautiful when you have it. Another way is to wear the same uncomfortable shoes. And if you all feel the pain, then you can relate to the problem and you can work towards the same, fulfilling the same need. It's more or less what I've seen at Zalando, especially. We've been running, we've rolled out the data strategy last year. We've been working a set of initiatives, and it was super interesting reaching out to different part of the business and feeling people, finally someone is taking the lead on that, or is able to pull the strings together, because teams want to do that, but they don't have capacity enough. So it's kind of feeling the same pain and working towards the same goal, I think, are two drivers for having this converging needs, or converging direction, I would say.
Yeah, actually, it comes up to me. I mean, we are different organizations, so in different field, but still the challenge is it's pretty common and pretty the same. And actually, my questions are two. So, if there is differences in approaching architecture from country to country, or there is a cultural approach, or and the other question is if in the near future the situation will change. I mean, if these complexities or this heterogeneity is gonna change, or it's gonna stay, and it's more a problem of technology, or it's more a problem of culture. I mean, I was thinking also on the improvement, the changing in technology as the cloud or whatever. This is gonna change, or this complexity that we were explained will stay, and we will. We will have to deal with the order in the next years. I mean, this where my
Yeah, I mean, for me, the technology will always change. It's just getting faster at changing, right? So we're getting more and more change happening more rapidly. Um, I think the big mistake that companies are making, at least what I see, um, is they're assuming that technology integrates. The tools just integrate with each other, and so many times I've seen this turn out to be a massive problem. Where tools don't just work together, and there is no industry standards to share things like metadata between tools to help people be more productive. So if people are just buying tools around the enterprise thinking it's more freedom and more flexible, increasingly I find it becomes a limitation, because the tools don't work together, and therefore productivity is blocked, because you have to rework things in different tools. So I think a lot of my clients are saying there has been two major roadblocks to progress. One is technology limitations, not just because they're missing technology, but also because the technologies they have don't work together. And therefore they want to move towards a technology stack where the technologies do work together. The second thing is culture, but I think culture has for years been a problem in the world of data and analytics. I think this year it's improving, because I think people more broadly around the enterprise realize that data and analytics is becoming ubiquitous, is becoming needed everywhere, and so increasing awareness perhaps that data and analytics are now strategic in business rather than nice to have, right? And so I think it's helping, but I think getting business to accept ownership of data that it's producing and enabling, making it possible to share and reuse around the enterprise rather than everyone reinvent is extremely important to getting a community going. I think a lot of my clients want to move away from standalone projects everywhere around the business to a more data and AI community where they can do more sharing and reuse, and deepen the integration in order to speed up usage and decisions using the insights produced. But for me, yeah, I still think culture and lack of integration across technologies is, these are major issues that companies, I think, are getting to grips with. That's why I'm seeing data catalogs and data governance becoming increasingly important to understand the data that's available and to help create a common place where governance policies can be defined, uh, and then trying to enforce those. But but I also think that getting, let's say, more towards uh, less tools, but tools that work together, is improving productivity a lot, and helping to cause reuse, because I think these are technical barriers that are in the way of progress.
So,
Yeah, Aisha, you want
yeah,
to?
Sarah, I would like to add something because it's very interesting the way Mike has put it. I would say that in present digital landscape, where customers are getting more and more knowledgeable and require immediate services and access to plethora of new product concept like self-service, automation, marketplace, as a service models are emerging, and organization has to strategically align their business goals to data-driven strategies where they can monetize and democratize data in real time and provide critical insight to their teams who can effectively use the knowledge for personalized experiences. And this is exactly we do in our organization in many telcos. So this is and the change, this change presently at IT and business department had to work hand in hand together towards the internal efficiency management, as traditional data management methods are starting to suffer from latency and further complexity, like Mike has put it, especially as data information need to be consumed at ever increasing speed. So when we calculate this, when we have to just see the complexity part, how we solve this complexity part is we just uh, build up a matrix of benefit versus the complexity part. In any use case, where benefit is huge and complexity is huge at the same time, we usually see that when we usually go towards the benefit part more than seeing how complex. Like, let me give you an example. In 5G, in many organizations, 5G is a game changer. But at the same time, at any telco organization, when they have to just go towards 5G, there is a huge cost involved, new infrastructure transformation required at IT side. There is a huge storage required when we have to see the on-prem models and all these things. So in many cases, they just don't want to go towards 5G. They just build it up to like 4.5G kind of thing, and then they can go ahead with it. And in this way, they have to, because if they suddenly go towards the licensing cost of the 5G and they see that many customers don't have these 5G phones, so they are not going to use it, companies cannot monetize this kind of cost spending. So in this way, the benefit versus complexity model we build up in our organization to just see how beneficial it would be and how complexity could be managed with these benefits.
Okay, Thank you. Really, thank you. I mean, what I was thinking, it's also if in different country ownership is feel different.
Different.
Start from because we had to. I mean, we're a bank, and in this field, governance was like something that we had to do. But then we start to understand the meaning and the value. Like also, I think also our user and all the people that have a role in this governance. So, but it was like a kind of hard, like at the beginning, especially. Now we start to like find some results and stuff like this. I don't know if in different country and different real the situation is different or it's actually the same. I mean, as I said, we started because we had to, and then now we are collecting a little bit some results because people starting to say, okay, maybe ownership is not that bad when like everyone has a special role, special still responsibility.
Yes, that's right. So let me just answer that. If Mike, you allow me, I'm sorry.
Okay, no, it's good.
Because Telenor, we operate in geographies, different geographies, and there is there's a variation a lot because we are into the European markets and we are into the huge Asian markets, and there is always when there are group projects to be executed within the organization, the challenges are sometimes different. Even though everybody wants to do and just produce their work at certain time, there are the cultural mindset and the way the people just see the things and the people interact together. They are also being the causes of those delays in those data transformation projects. Secondly, the regulatory compliances are different in every country. In European countries, when the data comes, there are data privacy, GDPR rules, and all things. But in many Asian countries, there are no such privacy, and nobody knows what to do with this data and how private it could be considered. So many organizations have, like us, make it a kind of a pyramid structure in which we just have the very private and critical data at the top of the pyramid, and then the data which could be critical in any way for an organization, which could not have specialized access to that data. Then the rest of the data is just been spread around, and so because people use data for their internal working, at the same time we use data for the customer insights and for selling, and there are services like data as a service and all these, which require a lot of privacy and regulations. So yes, the different countries have a different way of working. At the same time, different privacy rules are just stopping us to think the same way that we want to actually.
Yeah, I agree, particularly on the privacy, because obviously different geographies have different regions or countries have their own privacy legislation, or in this case, maybe in some parts of the world, none at all, right? So um, in the European Union, of course, is GDPR, which governs 27 different countries, but of course, if you operate in other parts of the world as well, you could be collecting and managing data there, which is subjected to other privacy laws. And so I think people have to understand what geographies do they operate in, what legislation do they have to comply with, and then what data does that impact, and then understand how much of this can they solve with technology, for example, to automatically detect sensitive data for each of these different laws, and then you can classify the data, and from there you can set policies to govern it. But I think same data could be subjected to different policies depending on where it is. So you're going to have different versions of policies for the same data in different geographies to comply with all of these laws. So I think that's a first challenge. But I think if you have no laws at all, then the other thing is, I think a company needs to create its own classification scheme, for example, for data confidentiality or for data retention, so that you can describe different levels of confidentiality, at least from at one level it could be public data, which case you're not really worried about who sees it, but at the other end of the spectrum you have trade secrets and things like this, which are very sensitive data that needs to be governed. So I think we can't just rely on laws. I think companies also want to protect their data for commercial reasons, not just for compliance reasons. And so, I think the idea of data classification scheme is very useful. Then if we can define the labels to software and then train models to classify the data, to label it, so that we should then know how to govern it. This is a little bit like Sarah, you were talking about the Grinch, right? I mean, so Harry Potter has something called the sorting hat, right? If you've seen the movie from Harry Potter, the kids go to Hogwarts and they go and sit under the sorting hat, right? And so this is what we need for data, right? We need a huge sorting hat, right? So you can classify data, to label it, so that then how to govern it. And I think if we create our own classification scheme within the enterprise, then we can still label data, even though there are no laws in different parts of the world. And then we can say, okay, for trade secrets, these are the governance policies, or if it's for internal use only, then this is the governance policy, or if it's public data, then this is the governance policy. And so you can still manage this across countries. But I also think that organization is also as big a challenge here. It's not just about technology, it's also organizational issues associated with getting this right. And I think we have to look at that. I mean, for example, in the past we had IT did everything. It's kind of like centralized. And then you could say, okay, let's go to the other end of the spectrum, and then it's totally distributed. It's totally decentralized. But that could also mean it could mean freedom, but it could also mean chaos, right? And so sometimes I see a lot of my clients now moving towards a federated operating model, which is kind of sort of in the middle between centralized and distributed. It's in the middle, and so it's coordinating across the enterprise, but still has a central element to it. So I think this, maybe that doesn't work for every company, but I think a federated operating model is increasingly being adopted by a lot of my clients.
There is a lot of content you just shared. I would like to follow up on each of them, but there is just one very interesting topic related to the governance, and I think it's touching upon also one of the comment, which is about sharing data. We were talking about GDPR and compliance, and we're talking about different markets, but I don't think we need to get that far, because we have also, this is just one of the dimensions of criticality of data. And also when we think about, is it worth sharing data? I like the idea of what was mentioned in the comment, like we have a share button on the platform. Yeah, I would love that. The risk is that data that you share is not at quality or not at standard that you have. And so one of the things that I think is really important also when looking at how do we govern data is, should we put the same resources on all the data, or should we rather focus on what drives more impact? So kind of having a differentiated data management that allow us to focus resources where it's more needed for different reasons. Could be compliance, could be business criticality, could be operation. And this would maybe help us laser focus better how to orchestrate, and also where to how to govern better, because it plays a different role. And this is also one of the concepts that is has been very crucial in what we've been doing regarding the what makes a data product worth certain attention or a certain type of policy. Because what we do, or different company do, is kind of defining guidelines, as you were mentioning, to set governance around it. And this is, of course, something that you cannot expect from everything. There is analytics and analytics. You have, for example, analytics that are quick insights that you want analysts to be able to drive. And it's okay if they know what you're doing because they're staying within their domain. But when it comes to sharing across the company, of course, that has a different relevance. You might have data that need to be compliant, or need to be anonymized, or need to be are sensitive for whatever reasons to the data classification topic that Mike, you were mentioning. So I think it's really crucial to keep this in mind also when we are designing architecture and when we are setting rules to govern them, be it a centralized setup or more federated approach. Even defining guidelines that are based on how crucial is the data, what's the impact, what's the value that is driving.
I agree. Also, I think there's raw data governance, and then there's a data marketplace, which is sharing ready-made, reusable data. So building on what Danielle has said, if I create data products and I want to share them, then a marketplace is increasingly becoming a mechanism to do that within the enterprise, and then the governance of these data products can be handled in the marketplace. I mean, that's what I'm definitely seeing. So that if you want to put something like a data product in a marketplace, there is a process for doing that, which checks that everything is done, including its high quality, including the sensitive data is protected and various things like that. And then it's up to the owners to grant access to consumers who want to make use of it. And then the data marketplace can keep a record of who's using what data, and learn from data usage patterns to be able to personalize data to different people around the enterprise depending upon their needs. So I really think governing shared ready-made high quality data is important, and I think that's why I think data marketplaces are becoming not just a shop window for data, but also a governance mechanism to govern the sharing of data. Whereas a data catalog is more for the raw data, just like what's out there, and so that I can use it to produce the data products.
Thank you. Oh, yeah, Daniela.
No, just one thing. I mean, we could keep talking forever. Regarding the topic of the data marketplace and the catalog, what I've actually seen is also at metric level, the definition of metric shop,
Absolutely.
if you want, which brings us back what we were mentioning before regarding metadata collection. And again, what I was mentioning in the beginning, the importance of connection with the business, because even there you have one business concept definition, and then you have the logical definition of the product, and then you have the physical representation that you can retrieve from different sources. So the moment we manage to synchronize metadata collection from different sources, and then we can connect them to the business concept, this would allow us to retrieve the same data product in different instances or different type of tools. So it's all interconnected, and we're back to the topic that is important to have business on board and involved in this conversation.
Of course.
Really, thank you. Like we spoke about federated model, and like the right balance between centralized and not centralized, so to let people be more independent in like self-service BI, and I think it's quite a really tricky balance, like how to govern. So you have to let people be like independent, and so it's something really really interesting. And also the relevant part where you say you have to maybe concentrate not on all data that you have in your data architecture, but maybe concentrate on what is relevant for you that could not be relevant maybe for others, but try to find a common way. And also the sharing part, it's pretty important. Now we are in a world that user ask for data, like not more for like an output extraction report, but for data that can use for AI or analytics or whatever. So I think that we took all the main point of data architecture. But what's next? I mean, what's next to come? Or there is also a question that say how we can design that architecture that are flexible enough to accommodate changes in analytics and technology advancement. I mean, what is the main gap in our data architecture? I mean, we spoke about security. We spoke about maybe, I mean, I don't know, AI or generative AI or, like a self-serve model. I don't know. What is your opinion?
Yeah.
Well, oh, sorry. Go ahead, please.
No, please.
Oh, okay. I was going to say, I think the whole idea of data products makes a big difference to productivity, because if someone can find ready-made data products, they can pick up and use it. But for me, one of the big problems with data architecture today is we have siloed systems. We have siloed analytical systems. What I mean by that is, we have a data warehouse which is being used by business analysts. You have cloud storage, for example, and Spark being used by data science. Maybe you have some part of the business using special purpose a platform like graph database for fraud or something like that within a bank, and then we have streaming analytics as well, and these are all being handled as different silos, and then the data warehouse, we produce BI reports and dashboards, and in data science we produce machine learning models, and whether they're predictive or prescriptive models, and maybe we start to produce AI bots now, and then in graph analytics they're using different visualizations to understand relationships in the data, for example, to find a fraud ring within that could be causing major issues with regards to fraudulent activity, or streaming analytics could be monitoring live financial markets to allow you to be more responsive and take actions to trade on the financial markets. But what we don't see is enough mixing and matching of these things. For example, machine learning with BI, or machine learning with graph, or graph and BI, or streaming and BI. We don't see that very much. So the output of data science becomes the input to BI. Or I want situational awareness on a BI report, so I need live streaming data. And I think this combination of different types of analytics is not happening enough within organizations, because they're all working on different silos. So I think many companies want to bring down the silos, and therefore this is where I think in 2023 we've seen major changes in architecture. For example, sorry to be a little bit technical, but there has been the emergence of what's called open table formats this year, which is three different kinds. One's called Apache Iceberg, one's called Delta Lake, and the other one is called Apache Hoodie. Every database has its proprietary tables, but now we have open tables. I mean, with proprietary tables, I have to migrate from one database to another because each database has its own proprietary tables. But now that we have open tables being widely adopted and widely supported by different database vendors, we start to be able to ask a question: is it possible to share data for multiple analytical workloads rather than each workload having its own silo? Could we not share the data and allow one set of data to support multiple analytical workloads? And I think that's definitely becoming possible now, and we've seen several major advances this year in supporting this from traditional database vendors as well as newcomers to the technology scene. And I think that's helping companies look at this and say, okay, maybe now we can start to tear down these silos. And but also, could we have a common platform where we can build, uh, you know, and create machine learning models and graph analysis and other things, and BI as well, all off of a similar platforms. I kind of think this is increasingly happening, and it's very exciting because combining things like machine learning and graph, I mean, so that you could see a fraud ring over time. I mean, that's really different. That's really new. It's very new insights that you would really allow you to be far more accurate in taking decisions. For example, in this case, about fraud. So to me, I think this is what a lot of my clients want: is they want to mix and match these analytical workloads to really produce new kinds of insights that really make a difference to their bottom line. And I think that's why. But I also think we can't afford to expose this complexity to the user. We have to hide it from the user. And so this is why I keep seeing a common semantic layer, common business definitions. I think Daniela was talking about this, going back to the user. What do they want to see? Common metrics. Everything is defined, easily understandable. And we need software to hide. If we're going to tear down the silos, why should the user have to know about that? I mean, why can't we simplify this without the user being impacted? And so I think that's why things like common semantic layer, business glossaries, data virtualization all help to hide the complexity and the change from the user, while at the same time making it possible to bring together these analytical workloads to do something far more far more exciting in terms of new insights. I mean, that to me, I think is probably the major change that I've seen in data architecture this year. I mean, in 2022, very few vendors supported these open tables. Now, in 2023, I think I've seen 20 or 30 different announcements from database vendors supporting it. And also this year, for the first time in June, we saw the emergence of graph queries in the SQL standard being added to the SQL standard. So this only happened in June. That means that all of the BI tools generate SQL. And so in the next 12 months or so, we should see the ability to generate graph queries from BI tools. That means they can do graph analysis from the BI tool, which means I'm bringing these workloads together. And so for me, this is really exciting because now I can do things I couldn't do before. I would do machine learning over here, I do graph analysis over there, and BI somewhere else, and now I'm going to bring it together and let me combine it to really reveal really competitive insights, which I think will be a very exciting time for business. And then you combine this with large language models, with generative AI, right? I know that's January. I think you said, Sarah. I don't want to talk too much about generative AI, but I think if you can ask a question and then the tool generates the query, but the query is also capable of invoking machine learning models and doing graph analysis. The user doesn't need to know. But the insights that come back are far more valuable than having to look at different silos for different kinds of insights.
Takes design effort. I mean, you're talking about interoperability even on the front, like a data and consumer layer. What I've been saying, at least the struggle for interoperability, like breaking the silos, is different granularity across different domains for different business reasons. You see, for example, certain domains working on a certain tech stack on different.
But that's why data products make such a difference, because data products become reusable across different analytical workloads. In the past, each silo built its own data engineering and built its own data. But if you have reusable data products, then you build them once, you reuse them everywhere.
Yeah.
Then I don't keep it separate. Then I can. So I think it's a combination of all of these things is really allowing these individual silos to come down. But it's just going to take a while, I think, for companies to potentially realize what's possible and start to look to exploit it.
Thank you. Really, thank you. And maybe I have a last question. Let's say, I would say a Christmas question, which already touched all the point, because we have two last special guests of this episode. So let's say if you would ask to Santa Claus a present for your data architecture or data strategy, what would you like to ask him? And if you would meet the Grinch during Christmas time, what do you really want not to steal from you? I mean, we already touched some point that it's gonna change or the problem, but like if you have to pick one thing that you want to keep, and one thing that you want to ask because your data architecture now is missing. It's a difficult question, I know.
It's a trick question.
Hard decision. You can think about it, and we can.
Well, who wants to be Jim Carrey first, right? I mean, who wants to be the Grinch, right? I mean, for me, if I was going to ask Santa Claus for a present that I really need in my architecture, it would be shared metadata for sure. I mean, because I don't have a standard right now. If you gave me a standard, it would allow me to mix and match tools and be completely free to do that. That would be beautiful. But I'm not going to expect to see that on Christmas Day. It probably won't happen. But
maybe not this year. I mean,
maybe not this year. Maybe in a few years' time when I'm looking like the Grinch rather than trying to protect myself from the Grinch.
Or maybe some active metadata.
Yeah. The thing I don't want the Grinch to steal now that we have it is I don't want him to take away the business glossary and the catalog. That I have to have it. I have to have it. So there you go.
Yeah, I agree actually.
On my side, what I can say is like what I would really love to keep is this focus on customer first. Like keep moving in that direction. It's like I really saw a change over the last year, and I think it's we should definitely keep it and improve it and strive for it more. And what I would like to ask is actually interoperability of data, which ties back to the metadata sharing in a way. So the ability of breaking silos and finally let the user have the smoothest experience when asking, when looking for insights. That would be the thing for me.
Yeah, Sarah, for me, particularly, I would ask Santa Claus to do something for me so my machine learning models and AI could be monetized early in the passage, because whenever we build up a model in the company, even if it is not useful for the customer or for us, and it could not bring money in the company, it will not be useful for as such. So many models that we build up, it is sometimes they look not very significant to business. So I would like him to just explain me how could I build up a model that could monetize it. The second thing is about my architecture and design. Architecture and design is an evolving thing. It's not like I build up something today and do those metadata and semantic layer and virtualization and everything, and then another thing will come in. So to abreast my team and to uplift the capability of people who would be using this architecture in future, I would like Santa Claus to just help me solving that puzzle. Yeah.
Cool.
I
Thanks.
I think as well, one other thing, if you could label all of the machine learning models and the BI reports and the data products with going back to what Daniela said with the business objective, so I could say
Mm.
for this business objective, which data products, which machine learning models, which BI reports, which AI bots are in play, which ones are helping to achieve this business objective.
So
then
it's
then the
my
customer could see the contribution that you're building towards
So
achieving that.
when any data scientists build up a model, the first thing they do, the first step is to know the business objective, what problem it will
Of course,
solve for the
of course.
business. Yeah. So no model is built up without this business objective in mind. My point
I know,
was
but what I'm
the
saying
business
is,
objective. It
yeah, but
was to monetize early to bring business for the company in a manner that it could be the customer could start using it. It could enhance the customer experience. It could enhance the company revenue or anything like that. So these AI and machine learning, it's good for buzzwords, but it has to bring the real value in
of
terms of
course,
these things. Yeah.
of
If I
course.
read well what Mike was mentioning, it's a kind of a recommendation tool that prompts you whatever you need for that use case or all the things that are
Or,
needed.
or if you go back to this idea of a marketplace we spoke about earlier, if you could label, so you could go into the marketplace and say, what have we got to reduce fraud? I mean, then you could see what's been built to do that, right? So, or what have you got that improves customer engagement? So then they've all been classified and organized to allow you to look at what's been created by business outcomes or business goals, and then it becomes easy to see, even though some of these have been built in different parts of the business by different teams. It at least allows you to see it, because the problem right now is executives can't see. I mean, they know they're funding a lot of these things, but they can't see across the enterprise to know which combination of things is being created to achieve the business goal that they're accountable for. And to me, I think just labeling it and organizing it would make it much easier to see. I mean, I agree. Each team should know the outcome of, or the reason they're building a model, or of course. But there could be 20 models involved to improve customer engagement and deployed around the business. There could be, you know, 12 models to reduce fraud. Some of them deployed in real time, some of them somewhere else. There could be graph analysis reducing fraud. So there's a whole collection of these things, and I think the problem is people don't know what collection is available to achieve these outcomes, because they can't see across all of these things that have been built. And I just think that would be really great if we could do that.
So I hope Santa Claus can able to just help us out with this.
I was thinking that I have to ask the Data Hero community to do another edition next year. I mean, next Christmas we will see how, if it something happen, or how the landscape is about all the topic that we have spoken about. So, but now for the moment, now the time is running out. So we have to goodbye, but thank you, because for me it was really such a great time together. And really thank you to our guests. It was a very interesting discussion and speeches. So really, really thank you. And also for, like having found some time in your busy agenda, because I think that the agenda are all the same and are quite busy, especially also in this last part of the year. So really thank you, because I mean, we really believe in this event, and I mean in our passion, let's say, for data and analytics. And thank you also for the people that were watching at us at home, wherever they are. And I should also say thank you to the people that help us to, like manage all this event, and they worked to organize it. So thank you, because it was very, very, very nice to do with all of you. So thank you, and believe in what on data, and believe in the real value of them, and Christmas, so the real value of Christmas, and Merry Christmas, all of you.
Merry Christmas to you.
Thank you very much. Merry Christmas. Buon Natale.
Ciao, ciao.
Bye.
Ciao.
Ciao.